everyone. Today, this is going to be the second video on this series, and we're going to be talking about how to install OMNeT. So, unfortunately, I do not have the different operating systems with me right now. So, I'm going to be going through the process. I have some pictures, so I'm pretty sure those pictures will be useful if you're trying to follow along with this video and install OMNeT, which is a very simple task. Just as a side note, I would like to apologize about the quality of this video on the past one. Currently, I'm not in a perfect place to record a video like this, but this is the best option I have currently. So, yeah, let's continue for now. So, Chapter 2. Installing and setting up OMNeT++. So the most current version right now is OMNeT 5.1, which we'll go to the website and check it out. So you have, it's definitely suitable with Windows 7 and Windows 10. I've tried that myself, and Mac OS at 10.1 and later. This is a Mac OS I'm running on right now, and it runs pretty well. And I know it runs really well on Linux as well. I've used it before on that server. So these are the top three that are mostly used operating systems, which means that it can run on anything. The other very attractive and one of the things I really love about OMNeT is that it is a user mode software. You don't have to be an administrator to run it on your computer, which means, especially for me or people like me, if you have access to a computer that has a high computational power, but you don't have the administrator access to that computer, you can still download it and run your data on it and use the computational power, but not have to use the administrator login. So, installing OMNeT++ on Windows 7 and 10. So first you need to download this from here. So excuse me, I apologize about my internet, it's kind of slow. So here, you can find the 5.1.1 release here, which is downloaded here for Linux and Mac OS. And if you want to do it without an IDE, the next thing that you have to do is you would extract it. And when you extract it, you should extract it into a path that does not contain space. So remember, this OMNeT does use your directory as the home directory, so that's what it's going to install itself on. So you need to make sure that you don't have any spaces in that directory when you're extracting it. Once you've extracted that, the next thing you have to do is you just go to the file and then you find the file named minigwenv.cmd. So what this is going to do is it's going to run a CMD window, and you're just going to install a bunch of things, and it might take about 4 to 5 minutes. But once it's done, it's going to open a terminal, and that terminal is like a Linux type of terminal, where all the instructions that you would enter would be that Linux instruction. So as you can see, this is one of the windows scripts out of that window. So here, this is a Windows system, but the terminal thinks that the folder in which you installed it into is actually a home directory, and it cannot go above the directory. But whenever you're trying to execute any kind of command from here, you would use a Linux command. And the next step would be you would just simply hit do configure, and once you configure it, this will also run it for a few seconds depending on your computer spec. But then you will see this message printed. So if this message prints, then you're good. It has been configured, and now you can make it. So making it is the part that's going to take a ton of time. So you need to make sure that you can keep your computer alive for that long, or at least make sure it's not turned off for that long. So this is going to take around 40 minutes, and once it's done installing, you're going to have an output like this. So once you have installed it, once you have this kind of output, next thing that you have to do is you need to go into the samples dyno directory. So you have a sample project that's going to be installed with the software. And if you go into dyno and do ./dyno, which remember, we're still in Windows, but we're running a Linux command because of the terminal just installed. You would have you would have a window that would come up like this. If everything is installed correctly, a window that would come up like this. Now this is a terminal. This is a simulation window, not terminal, but a simulation window. And you can choose general on that. If you hit OK, you will see a simulation. So how would you run OMNeT now that you have installed it? The way you do it, you would cd into bin down the bin in the bin file, and then you would do /OMNeT pp, or just OMNeT pp if you'd like, and that would run your OMNeT. And also, whenever you want to run that in the future, all you have to do is just go into min into double click on this file from your OMNeT directory and go into bin and run OMNeT pp, and this will always launch your OMNeT without any problem. For Mac OS users, so you can, if you're a Mac OS user, you can escape it to zero, and so you would download the latest Mac OS. As you can see, you still have Mac OS here, and next thing you have to do would be to unzip it. Once you're done unzipping it, you should copy it to your home directory, because if it's in your home directory, you're less likely to mess with it. So that's why I would suggest the home directory, that you can put it in any directory you'd like. Once you, however, the instructions here are for home directories. Once you go to a home directory and you go home to that file, and next thing you do is you set that environment. So you do that by .set environment, and then you configure it, and then you make it. So if everything goes well, you should see a very similar output as this one here. But this is definitely going to take a lot of time, between 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your computer. Next thing would be if you want to see how well it's working, you would simply go to samples and a log from your terminal. By the way, you'll do all this in terminal. So and then when you execute it, you should see simulation environment or simulation user interface, where you can select things and you can run things. So right now we're not concerned with you being able to, if you can't run it, it's okay, but just need to make sure that you have that window coming up. And you do exactly the same thing for other times. What you do is you would go into your OMNeT 5.1 from home directory or from whatever directory you installed it, and you go in there and then you launch it from there. So you can do that every time you want to launch OMNeT. You can simply do this. So what's next? Next thing would be execute the whole. So for Linux, a similar way. By the way, Mac and Linux are very similar in terms of where you would install OMNeT. But however, if you're using an SSH, it's a little different. The only difference it's going to be, when you configure it, you should configure it without the TKNV, which is the GUI environment, which if you have an SSH connection, unless you have an export or some other form of viewing that server, you're not going to have a GUI environment. So I would suggest that you would set this to no and configure it and then make it. And then you would go into dyno again and try to run it to test it. And whenever you want to run it, you simply go into bin and execute the OMNeT pp. So to summarize, the installation process is just a 4 or 5 step process, which is being broken down into 1 to 5 in this case. But all you do is you download the file, extract it to a directory you'd like. If in the Mac and Linux case, you set the environment and then configure it, and then make it. And once the make is done, which usually takes about 40 minutes, and all of them, you would have your OMNeT installed, and you can launch it from there. So let's talk about launching an OMNeT for the first time. So I'm just going to make a new folder here, and I'm going to show you how I would launch OMNeT from my own computer. So it's already installed in my case, and all I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go into CD, and then vide, and then I'm going to run it. And then you should see this come up here. So now I am going to select this directory. The new directory you just created as directory. So if you're installing for the first time, this is exactly what would happen. Alright, so here, exactly. This is the window that you would be expecting. So a window like this means that if I wanted to install the OMNeT from it, by the way, OMNeT framework, if you're serious about using OMNeT, which you should probably have it installed in your directory, but as a beginner, I would not advise that because it takes a really long time to install it. And you also import the programming examples, so that might be good for you if you'd like to see the sample projects for now, but for now I'm just going to not select those and hit cancel as well. And now here you go, this is a brand new, it looks like OMNeT. So once you have set up, if you'd like to create a new project, all you have to do, you go here and then you do on the project, and then voila, now you just give it a name. Okay. So on the next video, we're going to start looking at the actual code that we wrote for it.